Hey there nation, and welcome to the show where we help you to play miniatures wargaming on a budget. It is I, Commander Cheapskate, and welcome to an episode of Way of the Underhive. This series is dedicated to helping brand new players to Necromunda build their starting rosters and learn more about the game mechanics of their favorite gangs. And on today's episode, we're doing something a little bit differently this time, and the reason why is because we're talking about making a Merchant Guild alliance with the Electro Guild. We're going to discuss, of course, the Electro Guild in terms of its rules and how basically its delegation works for your gang, and overall talk about exactly how this would actually fit within the gaming campaign of Necromunda. So first of all, the Electro Guild, also known as Mercator Lux, is actually only mentioned by name in the Book of the Peril. They actually talk about their background and what they're all about, but they actually never made any rules for the Electro Guild, and Games Workshop has never made any miniatures or anything like that. However, after looking at the Book of Peril, I thought it'd be really cool to actually, what if I changed that and actually made my own rule set using this guild alliance? And the reason why I wanted to do that is because I do have an upcoming narrative campaign idea I want to use, basically where the entirety of the campaign is fought with using just merchant guilds only, as if it's like a trade war between all these different merchant houses in the depths of Necromunda. And I wanted to create additional gangs in order to participate in that scenario and in those campaigns. And I thought the Electro Guild would be really cool to create and actually make up my own rules for it. So like I said about this is a totally unofficial. In no way is it related to Games Workshop at all. But in my opinion though, after I wrote the rules and I looked at what I did for it, I thought it was pretty fair and pretty well balanced as well. At the same time, you could probably use this also if you wanted it in your own games Necromunda. You can spice up your alliance system by making an alliance with Electro Guild, or if you want to play an Electro Guild Outcast gang, that could be something that would be kind of neat as well. Like I said before, I'm going to plan on making a narrative gang based on the Electric Guild that's going to actually participate in an upcoming narrative campaign, so that's the whole reason why I'm actually making this video. So what we're going to do with this video is we're going to actually break up into small sections. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a brief overview of exactly what the Electro Guild is and exactly how you can plan on using them in your individual games of Necromunda. We'll also read the background narrative of the Electro Guild from the Book of the Peril, and I'll actually have a little segment about that. I'll then break down the actual Guild Alliance rules that comes with this alliance, at the same time talk about the delegation that also comes with this alliance, and talk about exactly how you can use them in your campaigns in Necromunda as well. I've also included rules in terms of credit costs for these guys in case you want to make a delegation Outcast gang out of these characters, and we'll talk about that a little bit more in detail as the video goes through. And as always, I will put timestamps in the description box down below so that way you can click and navigate to the part of the video that interests you the most. So that being said, let's give you a brief overview of what you can expect from the Electro Guild. So first of all, let's talk about exactly what the Electro Guild Alliance will kind of look like. It'll give your gang access to all shock weapons, regardless of rarity value or restrictions for that. So for example, if you're a fan of the blast weapons that can be used by Ashways Nomads, but you don't want to play Ashways Nomads, congratulations, you'll be able to get access to those weapons. If you want to get static rounds for your gang, but you usually can't get those normally, you'll be able to get those as well. And at the same time, we also have some special rules attached to that with ammo rolls when it comes to the ammunition rarity values of those weapons as well. At the same time, we'll also be able to take advantage of the ability to use the pitch black rules, similar to the Promethean Guild, which also makes sense as well because the Promethean Guild and the Electro Guild are bitter rivals and they control all the energy that's on Necromunda, so they'll be able to manipulate pitch black rules on the tabletop so long as you're playing on the Underhive anyways. I've also balanced this as well with some benefits as well as drawbacks as per usual for any alliance with any guild that's out there. I've actually made benefit rules as well as drawback rules that you can use with this alliance as well. And these things are things like guard duty, for example, utility bills, and all kinds of different types of rules I made for this gang. And just a word of caution, as always, this is actually unofficial in every way possibly imagined. It's just some homebrew rules I made for myself as well, but I thought they were actually quite good, and I decided to share that with you, the community, just in case if you're interested in actually using this alliance for yourself. As weird as it may sound, when I was actually doing research for this video, I went online. I was actually surprised to see a lot of people out there actually making their own Electro Guild miniatures, as well as their own delegations. There wasn't any rules out there yet, so I thought maybe this would be a nice way to actually create that as a stopgap as well. So because it is unofficial everywhere in every way possible, just make sure that you check with your arbitrator first if you decide to use this gang or use this alliance in your future campaigns in Necromunda as well, and see if your arbitrator is okay with it. And if you see what you like about this, please let me know in the description box down below, because I'm actually planning on making another video based on the Air Guild, which is another guild that is also mentioned in the Book of the Peril, and I've actually made rule sets for that delegation as well, and that'll be coming down the pike. If you'd like to see other rules, please let me know down in the description box down below, and if it catches my fancy, I'll actually try about making a video about it. So with that being said, let's talk about the background lore of Mercator Lux, also known as the Electro Guild. So let's go on and talk about the background narrative of Mercator Lux, also known as the Electric Guild. So let's talk about the lore around this organization, and I am quoting it directly from the Book of Peril, which is the Necromunda supplement available for guilds. So to quote, it reads, "The Electro Guild, often simply referred to as the Grid, regulates and brokers power in all of its forms, from geothermal heat to sunlight. The guilders measure out kilojoules and lumens, ensuring the efficient transmission of power and light from source to destination. Every sparkling joule of power must be accounted for so that the appropriate fees can be extracted for all who draw power from the hive's thermal core. Agents clad in luminous garb and carrying flicker electro-lanterns are the heralds of the grid, their entourage lighting up the Underhive like stars traversing the night sky. If a settlement, factorum, or hablock wishes to keep the lights on and their people warm, then it is to the Electro Guild they must go. The main rival of the Electro Guild is the Promethean Guild, the two often waging bitter trade wars with different gangs and factions, backing each one in different parts of Hive Primus, or different regions of Necromunda. The Imperial House does not officially back either guild, but benefit greatly from their endless conflicts and continued struggle over Necromunda's limited energy resources." So now that we're done talking about the narrative of the Mercator Lux, also known as the Electro Guild, let's go and talk about exactly what the Guild Alliance rules will look like, and I will actually show that directly on my computer. Alright, so here we are on my desktop. Let's go ahead and talk about the rules that I created for the Electro Guild. So here is the PDF about this, so let me go ahead and zoom in a little bit so that we can see it better. So let's go over the rules real quick. So once again, this is an unofficial document. In no way is it related to Games Workshop anyway. There's just some homebrew rules I came up for myself, so that way I plan on using this for a future narrative campaign that's coming up for my channel, and I thought it'd be kind of fun to actually make this rule available for general players in Necromunda. So let's talk about this real quick. So it reads, the Electro Guild. The Electro Guild regulates and brokers power in all of its form, from geothermal heat to sunlight. If a settlement, factorum, or hablock wants to keep the lights on and their people warm, then the Guild Heralds, they must go. So the benefits for this, we have a benefit called It Keeps Going, Going, and Going. That's an actual reference to the Energizer Bunny, just because I have a sick sense of humor. It says, all weapons with the shock trait may be purchased by the Electro Guild regardless of any rarity or restrictions. Any weapons with the shock trait gain the plentiful trait, replacing any previous ammunition-related traits. So for example, if you want to buy shock weapons like blast rifles and blast carbines for your gang, that's actually one of the benefits you get from being in alliance with the Electro Guild. Also, when I decide to make my narrative gang for the Electro Guild for an upcoming campaign, they'll be able to buy electric weapons as well. Now, for the delegation on this one, it's called Grid Heralds. It says, while the gang is allied with the Electro Guild in the pre-battle sequence, the gang may attempt to add guild representatives, from see page 33 from the Book of Peril, in the form of Grid Heralds, see below, to their gang for the battle ahead. Roll a d6 and add the gang's current reputation. If the total is 10 or below, the Grid Heralds deigns to aid their allies on the battlefield. If the total is 11 or more, the guilders decide that the gang can cope alone. This group of fighters does not cost a gang allied with the Electro Guild any credits to hire, but if chosen, they must be included in the gang's crew, even if crew selection is normally random. If, however, the gang is playing the looters, smash and grab, caravan heist, or escort mission scenario, and is the defender, see guard duty below, then Guild Heralds must be included. Roll a d6 and add the gang's turn reputation. If the total is 10 below, the gang is glad of its aid. If the total is 11 or more, the gang is unhappy about this forced interference, and they must test the alliance. So let's continue on with some of the drawbacks with this organization. So one drawback, of course, is the guard duty drawback. During the pre-battle sequence, if the gang has the option of choosing the scenario to be played, roll a d6. On a 1, 2, or 3, the gang must choose looters, smash and grab, caravan heist, or escort mission, and take on the role of the defender. On a 4+, they can choose any scenario as normal. Alternatively, instead of making this roll, the gang can choose to play any scenario, but they must test as an alliance. And our unique drawback for this organization is called utility bills. During the post-battle sequence, if the gang gained any credits as a scenario reward, the gang must give up a portion of this to their guild allies. The gang must give D3 times 10 credits to the guild. If the amount rolled is greater than the amount gained, the gang must give the full amount gained to their allies, and the alliance is automatically tested. Alternatively, the gang can choose to keep all of its reward, but if they do so, they must test the alliance. And this makes up pretty much the Electro Guild rules for these fighters. And so with that being said, let's go and talk about the Grid Herald delegation. So here is the delegation from Mercator Lux, also known as the Electro Guild. I call these guys the Grid Heralds, and the reason why I call them that is because that's exactly what they're referred to in the lore itself, so I thought it'd be kind of a neat name to actually use for a delegation, especially if you call it the Mercator Lux Grid Heralds. That delegation just sounds really awesome as well. Now, in case you're wondering what the cost would be in credits to actually have these guys, it costs 570 credits, so if you want to make an outcast gang out of these guys, the delegation would cost 570 credits. In this video, I'm going to talk about the different guild procurators, as well as guild factotums, as well as bodyguards in this delegation. I break down their stats, their weapons, their equipments, their skills, as well as any special rules they might have attached to them, as well as their additional credit costs as well, in case you want to include these fighters in an outcast gang. So let's go ahead and talk about the Grid Heralds, which is the delegation that you'll actually get with the alliance, with the Electro Guild. It actually consists of 3 fighters, and the very first person we're going to talk about is the Mercator Lux Guild Herald, Lectro-Maester. Now, the Lectro-Maester, of course, is going to be the guild procurator for this organization. Just like in the Book of the Outcast, the Book of Peril, they actually break down different members of this delegation down by guild procurators, which are basically the leaders of the guild alliance, followed by guild factotums, which are like the champions of the guild alliance, and then unfortunately we have the bodyguards, which are the actual fighters of the delegation as well. And just to give you guys a heads up, the Mercator Lux Grid Herald will actually cost 570 credits in case you're planning on making an outcast gang out of it, and the Lectro-Maester himself, who's the guild procurator, costs 175 credits. Let's talk about his stats real quick. So he's got movement characteristic of 4 inches. He has 4+ weapon skill, 4+ ballistic skill, 3 strength and 3 toughness, 2 wounds, 4 initiative, 1 attack. It's got 7 leadership, 7 cool, 6 willpower, as well as 6 intelligence. Now, the stat line looks familiar is because I did base the stat line, I believe, off of the Master Nautican, I believe is what I based the stats on, from the Water Guild. So that's what I basically did for that. Now, as for his weapon and equipment, let's go and talk about real quick. He's got Shock Whip automatically because, after all, he is an electrical member of the Electric Guild, so I figure a Shock Weapon would actually be really good for him. His weapon, of course, is a auto pistol with a static rounds included, so that way he actually can use that in shooting as well as in close combat as well. Plus, at the same time, he also, since we do have that it keeps going special rule attached to these guys, that if you do roll up an ammo trait, not to worry, it is a plentiful trait instead, so it automatically gets reloaded. He also comes with a fractor field, so he does have a 5-inch, he has a 5+ ward save, and he does have to test, of course, to see if his battery pack does run out of energy. He's also got photo goggles to see invisibility conditions, because after all, if you're going to be working in the dark a lot, working with electricity might be important to have. And he also comes with a spring up skill as well, so if he does get hit, he can escape pinning if he passes a 4-up on his initiative test to get back on his feet again. And just like with every single guild procurator in the Book of the Peril, he also has access to Overseer as well. A good way to use this character, especially if you want to use him for outcast gang, for example, it's pretty much up to you how you can want to play, however play style you want. So this character is quite flexible. His stats are actually quite average, and actually fits pretty nicely as a leader of an outcast gang as well. Up next is the Voltite Usher, which is the guild factotum, which is basically the champion for this gang. He also costs 130 credits as well. So let's talk about his stats real quick. He's got a 4-inch wind allowance as well as a 5+ ballistic skill, a weapon skill, but a 4+ ballistic skill. He's got 2 strength, 3 toughness, 1 wound. He's got 4 initiative, 1 attack, 8 leadership, 8 cool, 6 willpower, as well as 6 intelligence. So he's a little bit smarter than the average bear on that one. He's also got a little bit better willpower as well. And on top of that, he's got a pretty decent initiative, and he's got a pretty decent ballistic skill. But that's what he's really designed to do, is actually made to be a shooter, and that kind of reflects that in his equipment. He does have mesh armor, which gives him a 5-up armor save, as well as a long rifle with infra sight, so that way he can see in all visibility conditions, because after all, one of the benefits of this gang is that they can actually turn off the lights and create pitch black sequences on the battlefield, and we're going to talk about that here in a second. At the same time, he also has access to static rounds for his long rifle, because after all, he is a member of the Electric Guild, so having the shock ammunition is going to be part of that build. He also has a cult icon too, which may seem kind of worthless to keep in mind because there's only one other fighter left in this delegation, but in case you want to make this into an outcast gang, you can have that cult icon for larger group activations, and he has the clamber skill as well, so that way it doesn't have to worry about having the distance travel on vertical distances. Now, what is basically the idea behind this character? The idea behind this character, the Voltite Usher, is the kind of guy that climbs the different power cables, as well as electrical towers and pipes and conduits and things like that that are scattered throughout Necromunda. So their job is to climb up in those areas, spot to see if there's any trouble from above where they're at, also shoot at any trouble that is causing disruption in the flow of energy. And that was the idea that I had about the Voltite Usher. Imagine these guys kind of clambering around and sniping at people that were causing problems. And they, of course, do so at the behest of the Lectro-Maester, who basically just kind of stand around and just kind of demand things, and the guild factotum get it done. And of course, if you're going to use this as an outcast gang, this guy would actually be one of your gang champions as well. And the very last fighter we're going to talk about is what I like to call the Grid Servitor, which is the only bodyguard in this unit. This fighter costs 265 credits as well as part of this delegation, and this is the only bodyguard on it. I kind of modeled this guy a little bit after the Subnauticon that comes with the Water Guild as well, so that's where I got the idea to create this guy. So let's talk about his stats real quick. He's got 4-inch movement allowance as well as 4+ weapon skill and 4+ ballista skill. He's got 5 strength and toughness as well as 3 wounds, and that's why he's only got the 1 bodyguard. His initiative is a 5+ because he is a Servitor, and he's also got 2 attacks as well, so that way he can fight in close combat if he needs to. He's got 8+ for leadership, 4+ for cool, 8+ for willpower, as well as 8+ intelligence. So this character is packing light carapace armor, so he does have a 4-up armor save, which is quite nice, and he's also packing a heavy stubber with static rounds, so that way you can use that shock trait on those heavy stubber weapons as well. Kind of like your typical cargo loading servitors, basically, I base the rules on. He's also got the assault claw as well as a close combat weapon, which matches the one from the Iron Automata from the Book of Judgment as well. He's also got photo goggles that we can see in all visibility conditions, and he also has the Nerve of Steel skill, so that way if people do shoot at him and try to pin him, he can escape pinning by passing a 4+ on his cool test. So this guy will be getting back on his feet a lot, be doing a lot of shooting as well. Now this guy may seem kind of powerful, but just realize that he is the only bodyguard that's with this delegation. The Lectro-Maester is actually quite average, the Voltite Usher is quite weak, so because of that, to kind of balance that out, they had to have one really good bodyguard. And plus you can kind of imagine how this worked too. I can imagine like the Lectro-Maester is kind of standing around with the Grid Servitor having his gun to bear on anybody that tries to cause any problems if the guild tries to do any business in the Underhive. At the same time, the Voltite Usher is up in the tops looking out for any problems, blowing whistles in case something happens, so that way these characters can be warned as well. The last thing we're going to talk about is the final benefit that this delegation brings, because an alliance with the Electro Guild gives you it keeps going benefit, so that way you have access to shock trait weaponry, but at the same time we also have a tactical benefit of the actual delegation. It's called Finger on the Pulse, and this is pretty much how the actual rule works. It says if the controlling player controlling the Grid Heralds chooses, they may announce during the pre-battle sequence after crews have been chosen but before deployment that the battle may be fought using the pitch black rules. Additionally, they may choose during any end phase that these rules will no longer apply. So this one's actually directly based off of the same ability given by the Promethean Guild as well. And I thought it was kind of benefit because both the Promethean Guild as well as the Electro Guild actually fight one another and are quite rivals in terms of energy use in the Underhive. So having the ability to turn off the lights just like the Promethean Guild, I thought was a kind of natural kind of added benefit, tactical benefit that'd be given to this delegation when you have it join your gang. And at the same time, of course, if you decide to use this as an outcast gang, you'll also still get access to that as well. But I'll talk about that later when I actually show you my outcast gang rules that I actually created for this guild. So there you guys have it. This is my my rules that I created for the Electro Guild, also known as Mercator Lux. These are the rules that we have for the Alliance rules. So tell me what you guys think. I think it's a fun way to spice up alliances. Adding 2 new guilds alliance systems would actually make gangs really, really interesting as well. And at the same time, I will have an outcast gang roster for this particular guild coming up later on down the pike. So do keep an eye out for that in the future. And at the same time, I'm also bringing up my very first narrative campaign using guilds for an upcoming Battle Report series. I'm actually thinking about creating what I like to call, and I'm going to give you a spoiler to now, I'm calling it Necromunda Monopoly Edition is what I'm calling it. Pretty much I'm kind of mirroring this campaign off of the traditional board game Monopoly, which is a game that a lot of people grew up with. And I thought it'd be kind of interesting is if we pretend that you found some new dome or some new section of the Underhive that the guilds are trying to take advantage of and try to stake their claim into. So you can imagine these guilds fighting each other one at a time in order to control this section by pretty much creating a monopoly and trying to own as much of this territory as they possibly can. And so because I will have outcast gangs for every single one of the delegations and from the different guilds in the rule system, and including the Mercator Lux, which is the Electro Guild, as well as my future upcoming Air Guild video as well. I'll be making that too, and just keep out for that one. Of course, be subscribed so that way you can see that, click notifications so that you get access to it, so that way you can see if you want to use those rules as well. So as always, you guys, please feel free to comment, like, and or subscribe. Your guys' input is invaluable to us as always. Also check us out on Facebook, Instagram, as well as blogger.com for all the latest greatest hobby news related to this channel. That's good for this one, you guys. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out and stay classy.